We will not make y'all introduce yourselves. We will have some time at the end if you have questions or just want to chat. Um, so I'll go ahead and jump into our presentation. Also, if you have any questions as I'm going through this, um, feel free to drop it in the chat and someone from our team will monitor that, or just come off mute and we'll have a chit chat. Um, real quick, I'll show you our toolkit page, which I think I have sent a link out to most folks so they have it. Are we seeing that now? Okay. So this just has some of the information about the investment process, um, when the LOI closes, the access codes, if you ever have questions about that. And then the full timeline is listed here and some additional information about working through the process. So this is navigable, I think that's the right word, from our homepage. So if you just come up here to About Us, go to How We Invest, and come down to Prospective Partner Investment Process Toolkit. That will get you where you need to be. So this is kind of a good page if you ever have questions as a sort of starting point. Back to the PowerPoint. If you ever don't know who to reach out to as you're working through things, you can always connect with me and then I'll connect you to the right person. And then we just wanted to jump through requirements to apply. So for this specific application process, you need to be a 501c3 nonprofit as designated by the IRS, or have a fiscal agent, or be a government entity. Your program needs to serve at least one of the following, which is Polk, Dallas, Warren. That's the Tri-County area that we serve as a United Way. There are other United Ways that serve other parts of Iowa. And then for this application, you need to not currently be funded by United Way, and then you need to be incorporated in the state of Iowa. So we do have a financial policy that kind of guides some of our investments that we make and guides our application process. Recognizing that United Way is a steward of donor dollars, we need to ensure that the organizations that we're providing funding to are financially sound. So we utilize 990s and audits to conduct financial analyses of our applicants. So this is going to be important for you all to note as you go to fill out an LOI. Depending on the type of financial documentation that you currently have, we have maximum funding amounts that we will be able to provide. So if you're a 501c3 that's newly formed, and so you don't have a full 990, or you don't have a 990 at all that you have submitted with the IRS yet, so this would be essentially for agencies that are less than a year old. The max we can fund is $15,000. If you have a 990N, so this is going to be like a really short 990. It's called a postcard that doesn't have any financial information on it. The max that we will fund is $20,000. And then all other new applicants, so you might have a 990EZ or a full form 990, and you might have an audit. The max that we will fund for a new entity is going to be $30,000. Any questions so far? I wanted to run through the timeline real quick. Again, this is on that web page, so you can always go look at that. The LOI did open on Friday, and it will close on the 21st, which is a Tuesday. We will then take about a week to review those internally as a team, and then we will notify you by the 29th at the latest as to whether or not you'll be advanced onto a full application. So really on that LOI, we're just looking for alignment, ensuring that the work you're doing aligns with our priorities as an organization. And then the full application will open for anyone that gets moved on to that application on February 3rd, and it will close on March 2nd. And then decisions will not be announced until July 1st. That is the earliest that you will hear any sort of formal decision from us. So you will likely not hear anything from us throughout that almost 4-month period from early March to early July. So don't like freak out or be like, we're not getting funding because you haven't heard from us for 3 months. That's just the length that the process takes for us.
And again, to be clear, you'll hear whether or not your LOI was approved.
Correct.
But so you'll have that trigger point, and then it'll be after that.
For clarity, Rachel. And then just a little more context on this. So the LOI will be reviewed by staff internally, but all of the official investment decisions are made by our cabinets, which are a group of volunteers that are experts in the community. So we have 5 cabinets that align with the 5 elements under which we provide funding, which we'll look at in a second. So any official application decisions will be made by those cabinets. All right, so now we're going to jump over to.
And we do have a question in the chat about the time frame for the use of funds, which would be July 1, 2025 to June 30, 2026.
Yep. So once you create your account in Foundant and log in, this is what your sort of dashboard will look like. You won't have any applications here. I just have one on mine. You'll come up here to this apply button on the left-hand side, and then you'll enter the access code that I sent out, and that was also on that new applicant webpage. So it's going to be all caps new FY26. So this will pop up. This will give you all those details again about the funding period. So like Rachel said, July 1, 2025 to June 30, 2026. Details about when the letter of intent is due for those that get moved on to a full application, details about that, and then my contact info, so you can always reach out to me. So you'll just click that apply button on the right side, and it will open up the LOI for you, as you see here. Up here will be all your organization information, and then the full LOI will be down here. We try to make it pretty short and simple. And one thing to note, anything you do on the LOI, if you get moved on to a full application, will auto merge over to the application. So you won't have to repeat all the work. It'll just be automatically copied over. We may provide some suggestions on like things you could update or change. So you would want to do that, but all that information will be there. So any question that has the star next to it is going to be required. So you won't be able to submit the form until you have done all those sections. If you come in and you work on it some, but it's not ready to submit, you can always hit save and then go back and access it through your dashboard again. So you'll start by entering the program name, and then you will select the area of United Way element with which your program aligns. So you'll see we have our 5 elements: early childhood success, essential needs, economic opportunity, education success, and health and well-being. The very brief sort of description or result for each of those is going to be here, but you can read full details about it by clicking on any of these, and it will tell you that the page is not found, which is super fun. So I will get that fixed.
John, we have that website update
Yeah,
getting released this week, so
yeah.
that's probably.
But if you go to just our main page, go to United to Thrive, you can access all of those links here. And like I said, I'll get it updated. So it'll give you full details about the element so that you can kind of understand what we're looking at. And then you'll come down and you'll see the strategies under which we provide funding. So we'll just do one example, essential needs. Strategy 1 is going to be focused on access to healthy food. Strategy 2 is going to be access to quality, affordable housing. And then 3 is about creating sort of built environments, sort of safe, welcoming physical environments for folks. So you'll click on one of those, the strategies will pop up, and then you'll select the strategy that your program most aligns with. There are some programs that sort of can fit in several different areas. So if you have any questions about navigating that and figuring that out, just reach out to us. So then the first sort of full text box section is going to be what we do. You're just going to it's sort of the overview of what your program does. So you're providing a description of how the program operates, and then the second part of it is going to be talking about how it aligns with the strategy that you selected. So we want you to really explicitly sort of explain the full program, how it operates, and then also explicitly talk about how that aligns with our goals and our strategy that you selected. Questions?
There was a question in the chat about an example of a program name for the LOI. And so again, for many of you, your program is your agency and you just have your one focus area. For others, you have several different programs that you're operating, whether it's like a food program and an education program and a job searching program. So it's just whatever you call your organization. It can be the same as the agency, and that's okay.
For each of the questions, we do have some sort of talking points or sort of guides for you all. So this is essentially just saying what I just said about covering both the program overview and the alignment. And then these are just some things that you can talk to. You do not have to address all of the bullet points under this section. It's just to kind of give you some thoughts of like what you can write about. But you should do it in whatever way works best for you. Next section is going to be who we impact. So whereas this was kind of about what you do, this is going to be about who you do it with. So just an estimate of number of clients served. So this would be focusing on individuals rather than like number of times that people are served. So singular people. And it doesn't have to be perfect, just an estimate so we have an idea. And then we're going to be getting into the population and people served. So describe the participants served by your program and then explain why your program serves them specifically. So we want that sort of comprehensive understanding of who is being served. And down here, you will see a lot of different demographic characteristics, most of which, if you become a funded program, we ask you to track the demographics of the people you serve, and these are the ones that you would be tracking. But just seeing this list here can help you think about the different identities of folks that you serve. And can help you kind of talk to who the broader population of people you serve is. And then an explanation of why those specific people need your services. So maybe you're like a youth tutoring program. The biggest demographic characteristic of the people you serve is going to be their age group. And then maybe there are other demographics within that you want to talk to. And then you would talk about why the kids that you're working with need those tutoring services. Hopefully that helps give you sort of a basic understanding of what to put there. Any questions on that? United Way team, anything to add? All right. Last sort of major thing. So it's really only three big questions that we got going on is going to be budget and funding. So this is going to be that breakdown that I showed you on the PowerPoint of based off the financial documentation that you have, the amount of funding that you can request and that we will consider. So here, total program budget, we want an estimate of the total expenses for your program for a year, specifically looking at that July 1, 2025 to June 30, 2026 time period. So we know that like this will be very variable. It'll depend on getting grants, depend on, donation income. So we know that it has a tendency to change, but just do your best to estimate what that program budget will be. And then right below it is the amount requested. So that's where we're going to specifically enter the amount of funding that you are looking to get from United Way. As long as it's sort of under whatever number your documentation sort of has you at, you can put whatever works for you, whatever you need for the program, as long as it's under that maximum amount that we have set. Again, July 1 to June 30. And then the written part here is going to be the use of funds. So talking about how you're going to utilize specifically the funding that you're requesting from us. So if you're requesting 15,000, we want a sort of thorough explanation of how those $15,000 will be spent for your program. So you want to talk to how the funding is being used, how us providing you funding will create impact, and then why your program needs the funding to operate. So we just want to sort of have an idea of where the money will be going and then know that that investment will create impact. That's what we're looking for in this section. Sometimes it can be really helpful to do a sort of bulleted breakdown of like 5,000 towards this, 7,000 towards that. And that'll give us a really clear picture of where those funds are going. It doesn't always have to be done that way, but that's just one example. Questions, other input? All right. And then just wrapping up, we ask if your organization has if another organization serves as your fiscal sponsor. So you'll mark yes or no, because that will just sort of impact the financial documentation that you give us. So if you are a program that isn't its own 501c3 and some other organization is managing your funding for you, your finances for you, you would mark yes, and then you would submit their financial documentation. Most organizations will be their own independent agencies, so you would mark no, and then upload your most recent 990. So again, this can be the 990N, the 990EZ, the full form 990, whatever 990 you submit as an agency. And it should be the most recent. Some may not have FY24 yet. So whatever the most recent 990 you have ready to send to us. And then whoever's completing the form, we'll just put their name here. Once all of that is done, you can hit submit. That's about it.
John, you can also just save that and come back to edit, correct?
Yep. So yeah, you can do as much work in here as you want. You can always save it and then go back to your dashboard and click into it. So once you like create the LOI, so like this is my LOI that I just created for this. You'll see it right here on your dashboard and just come here and click edit.
And John, there is a question, what is the total amount of funds that United Way hopes to disperse to nonprofits for this grant cycle?
That's not generally a number that we like throw out publicly. We do consider all new applicants at the same time that we're considering our current funded partners. So it all goes into sort of one large review. But we don't really have that number at disposal of how much we fund total. Any other questions? Good question, Don. Yes, we do. Our funding can be used towards staffing. We know that a lot of funders want it to be just on like program expenses and not on the actual staffing to operate the programs, which for most nonprofits, the staffing is central to the program operation. And so we recognize that. And yes, you can absolutely use funding for staff. And then scholarships. So you mean like to provide direct funding to participants of programs? Is that, yeah, I don't think we have any sort of restrictions on that per se. Yeah, the only thing that we're generally like, uh, that where our funds can't really be used is like physical infrastructure, and like that sort of physical development of buildings and stuff like that.
Yep,
But
like
otherwise we're
capital
pretty,
campaigns.
and capital campaigns. Thanks, Rachel.
Yep.
Otherwise, we're pretty flexible about how you use your funding towards your program. Any other questions? Um, Well, thanks everyone for being on. As we recorded this, we will upload that